You're listening to Manx Radio, and I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And that familiar music tells us that once again it's time to welcome Howard Parkin into the studio for this month's edition of the Manx Sky at Night. Faster my Howard.
Faster my Judith, it's great to be here again.
Well, you're very welcome. And wearing what looks like a flying jacket. Look, that wouldn't look out of place in the cockpit.
I'm a bit cold. I've just come back from holiday and I'm a bit cold, I'll be honest with you.
And here's me thinking that you were just you were going to tell me that you were going off on some mission, because you look like a man on a mission. So come on, Howard, what have you got? A lot of news for us?
Oh, absolutely. There's always lots going on in space travel and astronomy and everything else, and it's a great time of the year for us, of course, because now, as you said earlier, I heard the introduction, the skies are starting to get darker early. It's about 7 o'clock, it's getting dark now. None of this 10:30, 11 o'clock rubbish in the middle of the summer. So we've got some nice dark skies, but what we need now is some clear skies. Don't mind the dark, but we want the clear skies as well. So we're hoping to get a few clear nights. And as we head towards the September equinox, of course, on the 22nd of September, and the clocks will go back. So I'm depressing everybody now, telling them all this.
I know.
But at least we do get to see more of the night sky. And the Manx dark skies, of course, are wonderful.
Well, they are, and everything has its upside. I mean, the light nights are lovely because you can do more, you can go out for a walk, and it's still... And it has to be said that it feels, I'm sure this is not true, but it feels like the light nights are a much shorter season, that they're, they're not... So, anyway...
But it's not been a bad summer, let's not complain. We've had reasonable weather,
I'm not complaining at all, not complaining. But if we do get not only some darker skies and some clear skies, what is the first thing that you want us to look for?
The first thing I want you to look for is that we have a total lunar eclipse taking place on the 7th of September. The moon is full on the 7th, and you always get lunar eclipses when the moon is full. And what's happening on the 7th of September, the moon will rise totally eclipsed. The moon will rise at about 7:45 at night on Wednesday the 7th. And when it rises, it will be totally eclipsed. So it's a bit odd because the moon, when it rises, is red in colour anyway. But when it's eclipsed, it's even more red. It goes red because the Earth's shadow is cast out onto the moon, and as a consequence, we get a red colour. But it will rise red anyway. But what will happen, as it rises, it'll stay red. It'll be a deeper red. The common name for this is the blood moon. We get a blood moon when we get an eclipse. There's all these names about moon phases and phenomena these days, but the blood moon only occurs when we have a lunar eclipse. A red moon, of course, occurs at sunrise and sunset. So it's going to be interesting to notice. The eclipse will last right through until just about 9 o'clock, 4 minutes to 9, by which time it'll be a bit higher up. But what you'll notice is then gradually over a period of a few minutes, literally, the brighter full moon will start to re-emerge from the darker eclipse moon. So you get this eerie effect of the moon will be half white, if you like, and half red. And it'll be quite dramatic and worth looking out for. Of course, you need to look towards the eastern horizon to see this, because the moon will come up on the eastern horizon. And the whole thing finishes about 5 to 10. So between 7:45 and 5 to 10, we have got the phenomena of a total lunar eclipse. As I say, the total phase only lasts for about an hour, and then the partial phase for another hour.
I would have said about a week ago, for a couple of nights, there was a very red moon.
That's because the moon at the moment is rising in a very shallow angle. So what's happening, instead of going from east to west, it's going very low in the sky. And as a result, it stays red for longer, because the red moon, the effect of the red moon, the normal red moon we get at sunrise and sunset, is caused by refraction through the Earth's atmosphere. Because it's coming in at an oblique angle, as a consequence, the moon seems to be redder for longer. Instead of going straight up into the sky, I'm just realising I'm using my fingers here. I'm pointing to things that people are just absolutely useless on the radio. But if the moon was to go straight up, it would be red and then it would go silver or white as you want. But because it's coming up at an angle, quite a shallow angle, it stays red for longer. And as a result, people see the red moon and think it's, something different and all the rest. But it's purely an atmospheric refraction effect because the moon at this particular time of the year, this particular time altogether, it's coming at a much shallower angle than normal.
But it was very beautiful because there were clear nights, a couple of clear nights, and it was very, very lovely.
Yeah. The other thing that causes a red moon, of course, is when we get a lot of dust in the Earth's atmosphere. And just recently there's been a lot of dust from the Sahara sweeping up into our atmosphere, and that gives us this very fine dust that sometimes we get in our cars. And we've had quite a bit of that recently. This area of high pressure, this warmer weather we've had recently, that will have the effect of bringing dust up from the Sahara, and that will show in the Earth's atmosphere and make the moon appear red as well. Lots of weird and wonderful explanations, boring if you like, but the beauty of what you're seeing is by far the most. It's like when I see meteors and eclipses and anything else. The view is always more interesting than the scientific explanation.
Oh, I think we need both. It's interesting to have both. It's interesting to have an explanation of why these things happen. But you're right. You're right. If at that moment you can't remember what the explanation is, it doesn't matter. Just stand there and enjoy it.
Exactly. I always
enjoy
say about
the beauty of it.
Anything to do with astronomy. We have got another very interesting phenomenon taking place, but this one is really for the experts. On the 19th of September, we have an occultation. An occultation is when one object passes in front of another. And what's going to happen? Just after midday, right through till about 2:20 in the afternoon, the moon is going to occult the planet Venus. Now, you won't see Venus normally in the daytime sky. You can sometimes see it in the daytime sky when it's lower on the horizon. It's quite high up at the moment. And I've got to say from the outset, never, ever, ever put your telescope or binoculars anywhere near the sky where the sun is near. So you've got to be quite a good angle away from the sun. If you can see the moon in daylight, which you can very easily quite often, if you see the moon in daylight on the 19th of September, around midday, right through to, as I say, 2:20, don't look away from the moon because I don't want you going anywhere near the sun and damaging your eyes. But with binoculars or a small telescope, you might see the bright Venus, even in daylight, disappearing behind the moon. And it'll disappear behind the moon around just after 12 and reappear about 2:20. Well worth looking out for, but you do need binoculars or a telescope. But I must stress, do not look at anything other than the moon at that time of night or that time of day, because I'd hate you to damage your eyes.
Well, it's a lesson that you repeat over and over again, and people do take heed. And Ian Sherwood, who enjoys this programme and is very, very keen on astronomy and belongs to a club in London where he works, and he said that just recently they were having a special day where people could go and safely be looking at things in the sky, but unfortunately the weather wasn't good enough and they couldn't go ahead with it.
They're just copying us. The Isle of Man Astronomical Society at the Southern Show only a few weeks ago, obviously we had a stand I wasn't there, I was away. They had a stand at the Southern Show, and what we did at the Southern Show, we gave everyone who came along a pair of eclipse glasses to have a look at, and we had them look at the sun through eclipse glasses, and we could see sunspots and things like that. Solar observing is a fascinating thing to see. When you think of our star, the sun, how what it gives us and everything else, and when you look at it in detail, obviously with eclipse glasses you're just going to see a yellow sun through the eclipse glasses, but when you look at it through a hydrogen alpha filter on a solar telescope and things like that, there's so much more to see. And it is a branch of astronomy that's growing more and more, because it's a lot easier to find the sun. It's a lot easier to make sure if the sun's around you can see it, obviously. And solar observing, as I say, we did it last year at the Southern Show, and we did it again this year. So they're just copying us. So well done to your listener.
Maybe not. Maybe just they had the same idea.
Maybe we'll give them that. It's a joint effort.
But do you not think it is such a good thing for a club or a society to do, because it reinforces how you need to be safe to do certain things. You can't just look at anything.
It does worry us. I know whenever I talk about eclipses, which we did last year, and we've got another one coming next year, which we'll be talking about near the time, next August 2026. And we'll be talking about that then. But we're always very cautious about people looking with appropriate equipment or with expertise of astronomers near them. So more of that much later.
Indeed. Right, back to the skies. What else? What else do we need to be? What about the Perseids meteors?
The Perseid meteor shower, which occurred in the middle of August, mixed reports. quite a few people saw a few, but not many. The weather was not brilliant. But I did see some reports of a few had been seen from the island. That was actually away at the time, and I saw a few when I was away. And they are always dramatic, and you always can guarantee if it's anything like clear, you'll see some meteors. And I've not been let down again, although the weather, as I say, wasn't that good. But those who did see the sky up in the top of the island near Nut Ramsey and the Point of Ayr around there, quite a few observers up there saw a few. They weren't as prolific, but then again, the moon was interfering with it because the moon was full only a few days earlier. So that did have an effect. What we really need is a new moon when the Perseids are around. And I'm not sure what happens next year, but I'm hopeful.
Right. Okay.
Well, we have also got in the sky, though, of course, I mentioned Venus already and the occultation in daylight on the 19th of September. But if anyone is getting up early I used to have to say in the summer months, you had to be up at 4 o'clock to see Venus in the morning sky. But now 6 o'clock will do it. Venus is very, very bright, very easy to spot, very bright indeed, above the eastern horizon. It's slowly, very surely tracking down towards the eastern horizon. And it won't go behind the back of the sun now till January. So it's going to be visible in our morning sky right through now for the next 3 or 4 months. They were very close together. Venus and Jupiter were very close to each other in August. I think I mentioned that last month. Jupiter's now moved away quite a bit, and Jupiter's now rising around midnight in the constellation of Taurus. And for anyone who knows their astronomy knows that Taurus is one of the winter constellations. So around 2-3 o'clock in the morning now, Taurus is rising because the winter constellations and the autumn constellations, of course, follow one another in succession. And we've got Jupiter in Taurus, but we've also got Saturn in the constellation of Capricorn at the moment. Now, Capricorn is an interesting sign of the zodiac. It's the sea goat. But Saturn is at opposition on the 21st of September. That means exactly opposite the Earth to the Sun, which means it'll be easily seen in Capricorn. And there's no bright stars in Capricorn, so therefore you've got a very good chance of seeing it. But be warned, Saturn at the moment has got the rings at edge onto us. Very difficult to spot the rings because just unfortunately Saturn is tilted towards us at the rings. What we call a ring plane crossing is what we've got, and this goes on right now till November. So big telescopes might just make out a very thin sliver of the rings, but it'll be a few months before we start to see the rings again open out, like to be seen in all their glory. So don't be upset if you can't see the rings, but you can certainly see Saturn is the brightest object in the constellation of Capricorn, distinctively yellowy in colour, and worth looking out for if you get the chance.
The rings, when they are fully visible, it's an amazing sight.
It's one of the best sights in astronomy.
I've only ever seen it when somebody's used, one of those very special telescopes that'll take pictures, and I know somebody across who's got, and beautiful, absolutely breathtaking.
It's got to be. We always say in astronomy, show a child Saturn through a telescope and they'll be hooked on astronomy for life. That's certainly the case with me. When I first saw Saturn, I can remember it vividly, and seeing it through the telescope is always great fun. But unfortunately, the rings aren't going to be very easily visible.
No, but they are there, and they will come back again.
Of course.
So what else should we be...
Well, from an observing point of view, we've got no meteors at the moment. The meteors have all finished for the moment. Well, there's a few obscure showers around. We're going to wait now till the next shower is in October when we get the Orionids, and then we'll have the Leonids and the Geminids. And these showers we'll be talking about near the time. But you can take a bit of a breather now. Let's get used to the darker nights and the wonderful sights in the night sky. In particular, I would always mention the summer triangle. The summer triangle is this wonderful triangle in the sky that tracks across from May right through till October. Just look up as the sky goes dark and you'll see very, very easily 3 bright stars. These are the stars of what we call the summer triangle, and the summer triangle is slowly tracking across the sky and will disappear in about October, and will be followed by the constellations of autumn and of course the bright stars of winter with the Orions and the Tauruses and the bright stars and constellations that we see in the winter months from the Isle of Man.
Well, that's not a bad start to the extended period of darkness, is it?
No, not bad at all. It's a great introduction to the sky. You've got the wonders of the autumn, and I can't not mention the constellation Andromeda and the Andromeda Galaxy, which you need someone to point out to you. But when you look at the Andromeda Galaxy, which is one of the autumnal features in the sky, you're looking 2.3 billion light years away. And that just puts in perspective the distances in astronomy are just so huge.
But if you can see it
with
from
the naked eye,
with
on a
the
clear
naked
night.
eye, that shows how bright it must be,
It is
doesn't
indeed.
it?
It's very bright and very big, of course.
Yeah.
And I remember vividly seeing it on a couple of clear nights. You won't see it from light polluted areas. You've got
No.
to have a dark sky. You won't see it when the moon's in the sky. So when we get to the end of September, and if you know anyone who knows anything about astronomy, ask them to point it out to you. And it really is majestic when you think about it. And this was the object discovered by Edwin Hubble back in 1923, 100 years ago. He discovered that Andromeda was in fact a separate galaxy to our Milky Way, and that made him realise, of course, that the universe comprised of more than one galaxy, not just the Milky Way, but Andromeda. And I know I've used this before, and I'll no doubt use it again. We now believe there's as many galaxies in the universe as there are grains of sand on the beaches of the Earth.
And that is quite a thought.
Isn't it just?
Let's just reflect on that whilst we have a little bit of music. I'm quite proud of this discovery. It's Katie Mellower and Moonshine.
Well, my eyes are closed, but my heart's on fire because the clock is approaching the midnight hour. I leave my window open, all the lights are out, and from the darkest night comes the lightest shout. Moonshine, moonshine, moon. The cow jumped over the moonshine moon. Moonshine, moonshine moon. I love you tonight under the moonshine moon. As we walk through the streets, there's no one nowhere, and our nightgowns are trailing and our feet are bare. I don't know where we're going, and I don't care, just as long as you're here and the moon's up there. Moonshine, moonshine moon. The cow jumped over the moonshine moon. Moonshine, moonshine moon. I love you tonight under the moonshine moon. Now all the little boys and girls around the town dreaming through the darkness till the moon goes down. But me and my baby gonna be up all night dancing under the moonlight. Moonshine, moonshine moon. I love you tonight under the moonshine moon. Moonshine, moonshine moon. The cow jumped over the moonshine moon. Moonshine, moonshine, moonshine.
The challenge that Howard Parkin sets me each month is to find some suitable music that's either got stars or galaxies or the moon in it. And Howard, how did I fare on that one?
That
Katie
was
Mellower.
excellent choice, Jude. I've not heard that before, so that's on my playlist. I have an astronomy playlist which is getting longer by the minute.
Well, add that.
I certainly will. Thanks, Judith.
You are listening to the August edition of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin, and we're going out into space now. And what I'm noticing, Howard, is that there are more and more space stories going into national news stories.
Oh, yes, very
they're
much so.
really keeping across everything that's happening. Of course, there is quite a lot happening, isn't there?
There is an awful lot happening.
What's the top story?
The biggest story, well, I'll give you two other stories first because these link to astronomy rather than space travel, if you like. But there's two comets in the sky at the moment, two comets that are not easily seen with the naked eye. One of them in particular is called Comet 12 Pons Brooks. Comets are always named after the discoverers. But using the James Webb Telescope now, they're able to examine the spectra, the light that's emitted from these comets. And this particular comet is very exciting because they've discovered not just ice, but water compounds, if you like. Ice is if you like, what it's composing, and it's melting and streaming out behind the comet. But this water, this H2O, to give it its proper description, if you like, is very, very similar to the water on the Earth. And this is the first time we found the exact same, or I'll use the word isotope, but it's probably the wrong word, the same type of water that we've got on the Earth. And this idea that the Earth was seeded by comets and the water that was brought to the Earth. The Earth was barren, it didn't have water on it at all. But we've discovered now, or we believe, the hypothesis is that the water was brought to the Earth by lots of cometary impacts. And we're now discovering water lots of places in our solar system, and indeed we've detected it in the upper atmosphere of some of the extrasolar planets around other stars. So this is quite a dramatic discovery. And this was backed up by a further discovery. There's a comet called Atlas. It's got more than that name. It's got about 3 different names to it, because most comets are named by 3 things, the 3 discoverers or spacecraft that discovered them. But the James Webb Telescope, this fantastic instrument that's 1 million miles away from us, orbiting the Lagrange point 2, has been detected. It's an interstellar comet. It's come from outside of our solar system. And by analysing the data from it very carefully, we reckon this comet is older than our own solar system. And it's also got water and ice entwined in it as well. So this discovery that water is basically a common substance within the outer universe and within the planets of our solar system and other planets around other stars is backing this whole argument that water is not rare. Water is quite common. And of course, one of the precursors for life, we believe, is water. So if we've got water, you've got one of the ingredients for life elsewhere in our universe, which makes us believe that perhaps, the chances of discovering some form of primitive life, I'm not talking about little green men or anything stupid like that. I'm talking about the chances of life evolving elsewhere in our universe, or in our near universe, our own solar system even. The chances are getting better and better as we discover more and more by using instruments such as the Hubble and the James Webb telescopes, and indeed other satellites and spacecraft. So very exciting stuff. And this whole concept of water being seeded into the Earth all those millions of years ago was something that only came about since I've been teaching astronomy at the college here at the university, College of Man. This was a very new idea and concept not that long ago, but it's gathering so much momentum. It's fascinating, and it makes us think, well, just what else is out there and what else can we discover? And I watch with bated breath and listen to all the news stories and see what else we can discover.
It almost makes us feel like we don't know anything.
It does. We don't know anything at all.
Really. Or what we know seems to be... When you tell us a story like that, Howard, it makes us feel as though what we know is just tiny little
fraction.
thing. And it may not even be completely correct.
No, of course. I mean, I think I've mentioned the Hubble tension before. I won't talk about it tonight, but we thought we knew all about the Big Bang and the expansion rates of the universe, and we don't, because we've now discovered there's something wrong with that fundamental idea. There's a lovely quote by Einstein. We should have finished with this quote, actually, rather than halfway through. And the only comprehensible thing about the universe is that it is incomprehensible. That's a lovely quote. I use that at the end of my lectures when I'm lecturing, and it's just a great quote. But, people say we're small, we're primitive, and we don't know anything and all the rest. But as a species on a planet, isn't it incredible that we can work out these things? We can detect water around other stars, on planets around other stars. And there's no end to what we're discovering. It just seems to get more and more. But for every discovery we make, there's about 1 million questions behind it, like the Big Bang. We were happy with the Big Bang theory from Edwin Hubble from 1923. Well, it came out just after then, if you like, the whole concept. But now we've got major problems with it because it isn't obeying the rules that we believe we know.
Which is great.
It is great. I mean, it makes us think. And I used to do a lecture on the Hubble and the James Webb telescopes, and it was a great lecture. It had a start, a beginning, and an end. Now I have to finish with but we just don't know. There's all sorts of other problems, and that's what I love about doing it. And there's always something to learn. And I just pick up my magazines. I get a magazine most months. This one here, Sky at Night magazine, it's called. And there's just so much information. I struggle to keep up. And I usually tend to take a bit of a break from astronomy between my night school classes finishing in about March time and start again in September, October. But I can't take a break, not just because we're doing this show, but because there's so much going on. And I've got to keep abreast of it because there'll be a big story I know nothing about. So keep me on my toes.
If you took a break, you'd never catch up again.
No, that's absolutely right.
But no, I mean, I have respect for anybody who does research and looks over the technical side of it. But I also have huge respect for the people who made Galileo and
Oh,
all of who made they had no equipment and nothing to
naked eye.
base.
Naked eye didn't have a telescope. Galileo, of course, started using a telescope, but prior to that, it's all naked eye stuff, all done with precise measurements and observations. So those guys, the Newtons and the Einsteins, and not so much Einstein because he's a bit more recent, but the Kepler, Tycho, and Newton and Galileo, those four are just absolute heroes in the astrophysics world.
Right, Andrew. Question from Andrew.
Yeah.
Andrew, good evening. Thank you. And he says, will any of the known meteor showers ever, in inverted commas, run out?
Yes.
Or be exhausted?
Yes, eventually, as comets go round, what happens? The material slowly spreads out along their orbit, and the Earth intercepts that path. So eventually, as the comets slowly disintegrate and slowly disappear, more often comets disappear because they just break up and become lots of small bits, which become meteor showers. I've not heard of a meteor shower that no longer exists at all. The Leonids is probably the best example. They only occur they occur every year, but every 33 years we get a real dramatic increase in meteor activity. But eventually, in thousands of years' time, millions of years' time probably, the meteor showers will spread out to such an extent they'll be much, much lesser, what we call a zenith hourly rate. But nothing to worry about at the moment. All the showers are still quite prolific, and the media, of course, tell us all about them every time there's one coming up. So look out for more of them. The next decent shower, or when I say decent, with a decent rate of number, will be the Orionids around the 21st of October.
Well, Andrew, thank you very much indeed for joining in. And from Andrew, we go to Andy. And Andy says, did Howard ever watch on television The Big Bang Theory and the episode that had the Manx flag?
I've got to say, I have seen The Big Bang Theory, not regularly, but I don't remember seeing one with the Manx flag in it. I'll have to look for that.
Well,
we'll look for that on YouTube. Thank you.
Andy, thank you very much. No, we didn't. You're one upon us there, Andy. We didn't see the Manx flag. Right, OK, we've got to watch the clock now, Howard.
Got one big story to finish with then.
Go on.
And that, of course, was the launch on the 26th of August of Starship 10. Elon Musk's Starship, launching from Boca Chica down in Mexico, near the Mexican border in Texas. They launched the 10th version of this particular rocket, the Starship, with the heavy booster underneath, and it was a complete and utter success. First complete and utter success they've had. They launched the first one of these on the 20th of April 1919 in 2023. So just 2 years later, they've now launched the Starship, and it's been 100% successful. They launched the heavy booster into space. All the engines fired successfully. They even relit some of them, which is a major thing they've got to do to get this rocket working properly. They relit the engines. They did what they call a hot... I've got the expression now. It's where the engines keep firing when the rocket separates, which is a very tricky thing to do. That worked successfully. The booster was then deliberately targeted to come down in the Gulf of Mexico. It wasn't caught by the chopsticks this time. They didn't want to do that as well, so they landed it spot on where they were meant to in the Gulf of Mexico. And the actual Starship itself went into orbit, dispatched some satellites, actually did some work, dispatched some satellites, and then came back down, re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, and landed in the Indian Ocean, just 3 meters away from its targeted landing point in the ocean. It was a complete success. The rocket, they got lots of video of it landing, and they show that the rocket in the sea, of course. When they showed it landing, they showed that the burning in the re-entry, the heat of the re-entry, did scar the rocket as it came back down, but nothing to worry about, and that leads them nicely on now to launching it again. And I know Elon Musk has actually said that by the end of 2026 he hopes to send a Starship to Mars, not with people on board, but certainly this is a major step forward. And it was covered by the news to a degree, but of course everyone expects it to blow up and all sorts of things. People love things going wrong. Well, this didn't. It was perfect.
Well, I did see a report that did suggest that some bits had kind of were flapping in the breeze and that kind of thing. But it's a big question, which I would like us to come back to next month. This whole idea of all this stuff that's going up in the sky and the rate of knots that it's going up.
That is a huge problem. Orbital junk, debris is a huge problem.
And I think, and somebody else has raised this outside of the programme, but has raised it to me, and it is a big concern, because they just seem, it's all right saying, oh, we're going to keep on launching and see what happens, but you can't help but feel that there are some consequences.
But it's getting the near Earth orbit. That's the area about 200 miles up.
Yeah.
That's all. 200 miles above the Earth is this band of material, if you like, in orbit. But to launch one satellite into space, you've got loads more material that ends up in orbit with it. The fairing of the spacecraft's engines. When it finally stops working, it becomes obsolete and it's just drifting around in space until it may or may not re-enter. So for every useful bit of space technology we've got up there, there's probably 100 bits of material that's no good. And that is going to become a problem. I read a wonderful science fiction book a few years ago where we stopped going into space because a couple of rockets were launched and they were hit by debris and the astronauts were all killed. So they stopped going into space.
But we need to be. I think we need to consider whether that might become science fact.
Well, that is something they're working on. I do know there's lots of ideas about collecting bits and pieces and bringing it back to Earth or boosting it into a higher orbit and so on. That is...
Howard, let's put it on the agenda for the September edition of the Manx Sky at
sounds a
Night.
good one.
It was an important subject and it has been raised by a listener, so it was worth concentrating on it. Howard Parkin, thank you very much indeed for this month's edition of the Manx Sky at Night. He'll be back in September.
Thank you very much for your time.